Hello, and welcome to No Such Thing as a Bad Movie podcast. I'm April Atmansky, and I'm here today with...
Justin DeClue.
And Colin Cunningham.
And it's now been 2 months of quarantine. How are you guys doing?
Oh, man, my beard is so long.
I'm very excited for my clippers to come in the mail so I can cut my hair.
Oh, did you order them?
Oh, I did. Yes, I did. I'm going to right when they arrive. My hair's too long and it's getting too hot outside.
Yours kind of just grows out, though, doesn't it?
Mine? It grows up into the air because it's curly. So it's really annoying.
So you're going to look like Eraserhead at the end.
Yeah, pretty much. I've grown my hair for like 8 months without getting it cut. It gets really big, but it's not fun during the summer. It's fun during winter where I have a big old hat on my head the entire time.
And then you shed before winter.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no. It's the other way. Sorry. Never mind.
So how about you, Colin? I mean, this isn't really changing your life very much, considering you just went to work, right? You didn't really do much else.
Before this?
What does everybody else do?
That's not true.
Wow, what a way to diminish my life.
I really miss going to the movies, actually.
Yeah.
And we didn't even go to a lot of movies at big box theaters. Just we would go to the independent ones. Mm-hmm. And we
restaurants.
And we eat in restaurants
we
like
go
2 to 3 times a
Yeah.
week. So, but you know what? It's fine. Like, it's a small sacrifice. I'm getting a little stir crazy.
Yeah.
But the puzzles are there for me. So.
Puzzles.
Wait,
that's
how many
going to be
puzzles
the new...
have you made?
I don't know, like
Hundreds.
10 or something.
Yeah, that's going to be the currency of the new world. Is going to be puzzles.
I ordered like 5 though, so I have a lot on deck.
Puzzle master.
It's going to be like Mad Max, but we're all about puzzles.
Yeah. So anyway, this week we delved into the world of Stephen King movies, which I'm pretty sure we haven't done yet. Not even on a Patreon.
I don't think so. No.
And there are, good Lord, there are a lot of bad Stephen King movies.
He's a prolific author.
There are just a lot in general, and there are some good ones for sure. But the funny thing is I feel like all Stephen King movies based on Stephen King books all kind of have the same like feeling, no matter who's directing it, unless it's Stanley Kubrick. Like they all have this like these reoccurring themes.
I wonder if it's like the dialogue and obviously like the setting. All of them are set in.
There's so many tropes, but the movie that we did this week is Dreamcatcher from 2003.
2003, directed by Lawrence Kasdan.
That's right.
Written by William Goldman, one of the most famous screenwriters out there.
That's crazy. So he and Lawrence Kasdan wrote it. And Lawrence Kasdan, I mean, he wrote Raiders of the Lost Ark, Empire Strikes Back.
A Grand Canyon.
2 of my favorite
The Big Chill.
movies.
I haven't seen The Big Chill since like I was like 10.
My parents used to watch that. That was like when that came out. It's like
boomer movie.
Everybody's parents bought the fucking soundtrack and listened to The Big Chill. Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah,
dun,
Boomer's
dun,
the
dun,
movie.
dun.
But when this came out, I think this was maybe before. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Stephen King movies started to get really bad.
Oh, they've always been bad.
Oh my God. No, this is
the beginning.
Since the dawn of time.
Yeah.
I feel like the good ones that were good, though, were in the, like, 80s and 90s.
I mean, if you want to give the good ones, it's a very small pool of, like, the famously good ones. So you got your Shawshank Redemption. You got your Stand By Me. You got your Misery. And both of those were directed by Rob Reiner as well.
Yeah.
The Shining, obviously.
Stephen King would disagree with you.
Famously hated that.
I know.
Adaptation.
I think The Green Mile is a good movie. I know. I'm not okay, but if you compare it to something like Cell,
The Dead Zone right up there is good.
What was that weird movie that we watched about the rats at the paper mill?
Graveyard Shift.
Graveyard Shift. Yeah, it's in the Night Shift connection.
That was weird and gross.
Yeah, everybody was so sweaty in that movie. It was disgusting.
Oh, man, but you can name all the bad Stephen King films very easily.
Well, it's just endless.
We'd be here all day.
The Langoliers.
Mr. Mercedes. Sometimes they come back. Sometimes they come back again. Sometimes they come back too.
I don't even know that.
I'm trying to think. Basically, every Stephen King short story or novel has been adapted into a movie, sometimes multiple times. You want the TV Toby Hooper version of Salem's Lot, or do you want the Rob Lowe TV version of Salem's Lot? You get both choices.
There were 2 Shinings.
Yes, the Mick
one with the
Garris
guy
one.
One of the guy from Wings, I think.
Yep,
What was
it
the
is.
one about the cat people? Not cat people.
Oh, that one's great. That's another Mick Garris one. What is it?
Sleepwalkers.
Yeah.
Sleepwalkers, yeah, but all of these are really super corny. Secret
And
Window.
I
That
didn't
one's
know.
bad.
I didn't know there were 2 versions of Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah, there's a TV movie called Trucks as well.
Yeah, I think I heard that, but I haven't seen it.
I think it was on Prime. I was like
Hey.
going by, and I'm like, what
Oh,
the
it's
hell is
supposed to
this?
be terrible. Like
Oh,
worse
it
than Maximum
sounds-
Overdrive, and I am not a fan of that one. So.
No, it's terrible.
Oh, hey, I just contradicted myself. I said we hadn't done a Stephen King movie before. We did Maximum Overdrive.
Oh, I forgot
did we?
we did that. We've been here. It's been 84 years.
But that being said, that's a Stephen King directed movie, which is kind of almost even more over the top than the ones
Yeah,
that
which
he
apparently he
just
doesn't
based on stuff
remember.
that he wrote.
Directed by Stephen King or the cocaine?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of directed
Well, I
by,
mean-
this one was brought to you by OxyContin, apparently.
Yeah, that Stephen King, this followed, if you weren't a teenager when Stephen King got hit by a car in the late 90s, early 2000s.
I think so, yeah.
It was in every, like, EW, every newspaper. It was, like, huge news.
I didn't hear about it, but I just recently read his book on writing, which which was written like before that happened, and then he put a section at the end about the accident, and it was
Right.
like chilling just listening to him talk about it.
Which is a fantastic book, by the way. It's
Oh,
his,
that's one of
Yeah.
his best books. Do you know that the guy who hit him mysteriously died years later?
Yeah.
That's right.
That's in the book, and there's like suspicion of like foul play. Like he was like I think that like he was involved in like some shady things, so no one really knows. But he was just like found like dead in his house.
His
or
empty
something.
van was found by Salem's Lot.
Yeah, he was involved in shady things, a.k.a. Stephen King's wrath after being hit by a car.
You know what I just heard on a
Ooh,
podcast
eaten by gargoyles.
right before we started recording? Stephen King is 6'4".
Yes.
What?
He is a very tall man.
Are you serious?
And this guy didn't see him walking when he hit him with his truck.
No,
my
the
God.
story goes that the guy, Stephen King, he likes to read all the time, and he reads and walks. And so he walked on the shoulder of the road, and the
Oh.
guy was driving down the middle of the road, and his dog, like, got into a cooler, supposedly.
Yeah, he was like looking back, I think, reading
yeah, he was like wrestling with his dog
for
or something like that.
So nobody was paying attention, I guess. And
So Stephen King gets hit by the car, and one of the methods that he got through it was writing Dreamcatcher, high off OxyContin, which, according to him, so drugged out of his gourd that he had to write it longhand
because he couldn't like
type.
operate a typewriter.
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I just learned meant with pencil and paper.
That's how
People
George
did not know
Lucas
what that meant.
wrote all the Star Wars films.
Really?
Yeah.
Don't you mean the Star Killer film?
The Journal of the Whills.
Yeah, the quills.
I mean, I guess that's how everything used to be written, but like, so then do you like have to
They've had typewriters for a very long time.
Yeah, how was it, Colin, when you couldn't use typewriters back when you were a teenager?
Well, okay, so my dad used to work at IBM. He was a mechanical
Mm-hmm.
engineer, so we would get the odd thing. And I remember in the 70s and 80s, he had one of the first IBM electric typewriters.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of like, pushing the button and the sort of like lever would come up with the letter on it, it had a sphere. And the sphere had the letters all the way around it. So as you push
And
the
the
button...
sphere would bring your nightmares to life. AKA
So it
Sphere,
was
written by Michael Crichton.
It was a sphere with all the letters on it?
all the letters around the sphere, and as you like sort of touch the button, it would rotate very fast and then go and like hit the paper. It was the loudest, heaviest thing you could imagine. Like
Oh, I'm
this
sure
thing,
it had portable in the name, though.
this thing was made of metal, like solid metal. It must
my
have been about
God.
50 pounds of just like metal. And it was so loud. Like you could not use this if people were sleeping in the house or if your neighbors were sleeping down the street.
Well, typewriters are always loud because when you hit them, it's like chunk chunk.
Well, they have the newer models were kind of like a little lighter. This thing would really ram that sphere.
Did you ever have a word processor that was like a tiny screen, kind of like a calculator?
No,
that's
I never had
black
one of
with
those.
green letters.
No,
Oh,
but those were a thing at the time. You
Yeah.
could like I guess save your whatever you're writing like onto a floppy or something.
yeah. It'd probably take like 5 minutes.
save it onto 16, 5 1/4.
Well, that was too complicated of a machine for Stephen King to work at the time. He had to just use his chicken scratch. And this is a really weird movie.
Oh, man.
It's a really weird story. Has anyone read the book?
I have. I read it right when it came out. And I remember as a kid liking it, but I don't think I had read enough Stephen King novels to realize it is just a stew of everything that he's done before. You got the kids from It. You got psychic powers. You got kind of like the fire starter Arlie Ermy style villain, or George C. Scott in the form of
Morgan Freeman. Well, Morgan Freeman is blown off the screen by his eyebrows.
So, like, they wanted Arlie Ermy, right? And they couldn't get him. They're like, we'll have to get Morgan Freeman, but give him those Arlie Ermy eyebrows.
He had almost like Ernest Borgnine eyebrows.
That's right. They like transplanted them off of Borgnine.
But
Morgan,
yeah, you're
Morgan,
right.
can I? Oh wait, this is Ernest. Can I borrow your eyebrows?
Like there is always these like tropes in all of these Stephen King movies, but this is like them all in one movie.
Yeah.
Mostly It. I found I was getting serious It vibes.
Also,
from this.
like what's another Stephen King story that has like a parasitic monster? I'm sure there's like lots.
Oh, Tommy Knockers.
Tommy
That's a plot of
Knockers?
Tommy Knockers.
Yeah.
It's like aliens come down and they start to take over people.
Wasn't Jimmy Smits in the
Yep.
Tommy Knockers TV?
He
Oh,
was.
yeah, and Tracy Lords.
I remember all those Stephen King TV mini, whatever they like.
And you
movies.
haven't seen The Stand, the best one.
Yeah,
remember-
but he loves the Langoliers.
Well, I remember when it came out, The Langoliers is classic. It was the funny thing because The Langoliers came out the day before I started at my very first VFX job, and everyone in the office was just talking about how terrible The Langoliers was.
Because that's like infamous bad
It
CGI.
is so bad. Look up YouTube clips of The Langoliers.
Yeah.
It's like these crazy, awful-looking Pac-Man CG things that are, oh god.
Yeah.
But this movie, like Dreamcatcher, even though we're talking about that it's all kind of recycled elements, this was a massive production. And it has a cast of stars like The Outsiders. It has Thomas Jane, Jason Lee,
Timothy Oliphant.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not sure if he was like a star at the time, but you
Probably
know.
not. No, this is before like Deadwood or anything like that. So
Was
Timothy Olyphantastic, you mean?
I keep wanting to call him Damien Chazelle. That's definitely
the
not
director
the same
of
person.
La La Land, your favorite movie.
I know. Damien Lewis. He was probably big in Britain, I assume, because he's a British actor.
I want to say this was right after Band of Brothers was like a big thing for
Right.
him, which came out after, I'm not sure the timeline, but I think this was after Band of Brothers. I loved Band of Brothers. It was so good. He was great in it. So I was kind of excited about seeing this movie, and my friends and I we'd always go out on a Friday night after work and, you know, have drinks. And then we'd go out to see a really bad movie on Saturday when we were really hungover. We'd go see like a matinee. And, you know, we saw The Happening and stuff like that. But Dreamcatcher was one of them. And for whatever reason, I just decided to sleep in. I'm like, you guys go ahead. I felt like I'd missed out. Like they were talking about this movie for years. It was like all these in jokes. Every time they'd see one another, they'd say, Jonesy! And I had no idea what they were talking about.
Wait, were you banned from seeing the movie for years as well? Was it like an Itchy and Scratchy the movie type situation?
I just never got around to it. And, you know, I'd sort of heard enough stories from them to know that it was really bad.
But did you not see
I saw it theatrically
didn't.
because I think I faked being sick one day and I got my mom to bring me to the theater to see it. And famously, about 30 minutes in the scene where Jason Lee is about to get killed on the toilet,
Yeah.
she got up and went, I'm good. I'm going to be waiting outside.
Oh, no.
But did you see it, Justin, because you wanted to see the Animatrix short?
Of course I did. A Flight of the Osiris. That was
Yeah.
probably the main reason, but I also read the Dreamcatcher novel, so I wanted to see it as well. I mean, you have to understand for people, like, the Animatrix shorts, I believe they came out between Matrix and Matrix Reloaded.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So
one
this
of
was
them,
like the first Matrix content that we had gotten since then.
yeah, I think the Final Flight of the Osiris was actually leading right up to the start of Reloaded.
Yeah, but did the other Matrix Animatrixes play in front of any movies or just this
No,
one?
just that
No,
one.
just that one.
Why this one and why Dreamcatcher?
It was the biggest budget one. It had a lot of money behind it. And
Yeah.
it was Square. They just come off of doing the mega hit Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. It had a huge budget, and it looked live action.
But was it just like, Universal or whatever owns the Matrix, and they also own Dreamcatcher, so put it in front of this movie.
Probably, but I think the story directly tied into Matrix Reloaded. So
I think that they were worried that Dreamcatcher was not going to make enough money, and that they needed to get a reason for people's butts into seats.
Yeah, because I think that some people wanted to see Dreamcatcher and were disappointed. Like, what is this short film in front of my movie? And then other people were like, I don't really want to see Dreamcatcher, but I really want to see the Animatrix sequel.
Justin, you were sitting in the theater when, like, you know, the Osiris came out. You're like, boo! I was here to see Dreamcatcher.
No. I was there to see Flight of the Osiris.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm like, and I remember Flight of the Osiris ending and me going, oh, that wasn't very good. And then Dreamcatcher started, which, oh boy.
Oh, you
even
were
as
excited.
a kid, I was like, what is this?
You were rubbing your hands together. You're like, yeah, shit weasels.
I remember when this came out, and the trailer, at least to like, I'm pretty sure I was still in grade school when this came out, maybe grade 8 or whatever. We were like, that looks scary and it looks really good. And if you're a fan of Stephen King movies, which I was at the time, I thought it looked amazing, and I never saw it. And I think my cousin saw it, and she was like, it's about these monsters like that you shit out. And we were like, I was like, what? So long story short, I never saw it. And then me and Colin watched it like a few years ago together.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't even know. I didn't think it was that. It's bad, but it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, I guess.
It's more just incomprehensible.
It's one of those issues that when you adapt Stephen King, you need to do a lot of rewriting to make it work for the screen.
Yeah.
And because he's such a big author, I don't know, man, are they scared of him? Like, is it because it's so literal at times? And they actually changed some stuff in this movie for the worse, like the ending. But I just don't like all the Stephen King sayings and expression that he makes up.
Oh, God.
When you have characters on screen say it does not work, but people keep doing it.
I could not agree more.
Yeah, there's a lot of concepts here. Later on, like, Tom Jane is talking to somebody over a telephone, but he's using a gun as a telephone. A lot of concepts.
It was a psychic phone call.
Exactly. You're like, okay, this probably read better. Or
I was thinking that the whole movie. I don't know anything specific.
The whole movie is like that. It's like,
well, I mean, right from the beginning, the movie has one big issue, which is that it's like almost in 2 parts, where an hour in, it's like, oh yeah, look at this Morgan Freeman storyline. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Why am I going away? Because the plot of this film is that 4 friends who saved a young, mentally handicapped boy when they were young, who then got psychic powers from him. They can read minds and also point out where things are. That doesn't really matter that much.
No, it doesn't.
I could get like locked down into the minutia of this movie and by like being pedantic and being like, well, doesn't make sense. That's a plot hole. I'm going to try not to do that, but do they all have all of the powers?
Yes, they all have all of the powers.
But only Oliphant seems to have the kind of
I'm assuming
CG
they
tunneled.
all have that, though. He's just the only one who uses it.
Yeah, because it seems like when they get their powers, that they're all going to have a different power, but then they're just communicating psychically, so they just have everything.
Right.
Yeah, because at first it was like, oh, Thomas Jane, the therapist, he's the only one that can read other people's thoughts. But no, in the next scene, Damian Lewis he hears somebody talk beside him.
So basically, it's like all the characters are introduced one after one another. This is the start of the movie, by the way. And then Tom Jane, and they are so terribly sloppy about hiding the fact that they're psychic.
They're just telling people left, right, and center that they have powers, basically.
And it's like every scene,
Like, you would have thought that by this point they would have found, like, a coping mechanism to explain how they do it, but they are like, there is no other way to read this than, oh, these guys are psychic, I guess.
Every scene ends with someone that they're talking to kind of turning around going, wait, I never told you my name was, or I never told you I grew up in this town, or I never told you blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and I mean, they're all unhappy, too. It's like...
how do these people with psychic powers why aren't they billionaires?
They're they're tortured, I guess, for whatever reason, and like they can't seem to make their lives. Where Thomas Jane is literally suicidal, and we don't really learn why. It's just, I mean, I don't know if that's in the book. And then like Jason Lee can't get laid, and he's upset about that.
His name is Beaver, by the way.
Beaver. Yeah.
It's because it's a very important plot point and character trait. He loves toothpicks.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why they call him Beaver.
Oh, because he's chewing toothpicks.
I didn't get that, but also
I thought it was a crass.
Timothy.
It's the reason he dies in the movie.
I
Yeah.
know.
Reaching for a toothpick.
Okay, for some reason, I thought that it maybe I had some memory of the last time I watched it that it was said that he was like a smoker or he was an addict, and so that's why he uses toothpicks. Like, because that's like he's replaced his addiction with this. Because he even has a little like case for them and everything.
Yeah, he just loves them.
That's not it.
Okay, well, let's get back to the plot. I mean, Justin, you were summarizing the story for us.
Yeah, so after we meet all of these guys, they all have like a psychic connection that they want to go meet the young boy that they saved when they were young as well. Duddits. So they decide to go back. Well, this is a confusing part. They just go hang out at a cabin that they mentioned. Duddits has never been there, but it feels like he was. But we never see this cabin in the context of their youth, do we?
No, I thought it was just something like their yearly cabin trip.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
it
do
just sort of
mention
seems
that.
like something that they do all the time, and I guess they have like a Dreamcatcher in the cabin that sort of represents.
That reminds them of Duddits because they made Dreamcatchers and Duddits put them all together. It's all very metaphorical, and really the Dreamcatcher has nothing to do with anything.
No. Although it is in the opening credits, and the movie opens with Tom Jane drawing one in his notebook when he's talking to one of his patients.
So they get to this cabin, and very quickly they meet a guy who cannot stop farting.
Yeah.
And hilarity ensues.
Well, he has bad indigestion, and then he can't stop farting, and then he becomes bedridden, and then he becomes toilet-ridden.
Yeah,
Toilet-ridden?
It's happened to us all.
He died on the toilet.
So this is my favorite part of the movie, which a scene where this guy that they find in the woods, he starts pooping and he poops out a monster in the toilet, and Jason Lee and Damian Lewis find him, and Jason Lee jumps on the toilet and he's keeping the monster there, and he tells Damian Lee, go to the shed, get tape, and we'll tape the toilet up.
Get duct tape.
Yeah. And Jason Lee, in the process, spills his toothpicks all over the floor.
In slow motion.
The bloody
in slow
floor.
motion. And, like, he can't sit on the toilet without a toothpick in his mouth. And in the process, I think the third or fourth time he tries to reach for one, the monster pops out and just brutally murders him in a lengthy sequence where he loses his fingers.
Yep, it like stabs. This creature, it's like a big worm with like a vertical mouth,
A big toothy mouth.
but its like tail was sharp. I think it like stabbed it with its tail, maybe.
Yeah, but you forgot to mention that this bathroom, that's bad enough. This bathroom has been sprayed with shit and blood.
Where did that blood and shit come from? The guy is sitting on the toilet.
He's on the toilet, and then
knows?
so this, I guess it comes out of your ass. This bathroom is disgusting. It looks like a murder scene, and his toothpick just so happens to land on the one tile square that is conveniently clean. Surrounded by
if he
shit.
needs it that bad, he should just put the shit and blood-covered toothpick in his mouth.
Oh, I was waiting for that. Like, God almighty.
But that's why I thought it was related to something like an addiction, because he was like, because who would need a toothpick that bad?
Well, because he says earlier he's eating peanut butter with his fingers out of the jar.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, it calms me down.
Exactly. So maybe I'm just inferring this stuff into his character.
You're trying to find logic and reasons for things to
It's
happen.
Stephen King's Oxycontin riddled mind as he's writing this
Oh,
out.
I didn't write that. It was Oxycontin wrote that.
Well, Stephen King's in the room with us.
Oh my God. I don't remember writing Cujo either. I think that was written by booze and cocaine.
So I feel like at this point, the film is on a pretty steady path. Like, it's weird, but then suddenly Damian Lewis comes and finds Jason Lee dead, killed by the shit weasel.
Right.
And then behind him, a giant CGI gray alien.
Yeah, and we didn't make up shit weasel. That's in the movie.
Yeah, that's what they call
I
it.
think Morgan Freeman calls him that.
But yeah, so now the movie gets even weirder because it introduces this concept of these aliens are actually shapeshifters, and one, it turns itself into this red mist and possesses Damian Lewis, and then earlier in the movie, there's a representation of something that Damian Lewis just thinks of, which is his mind palace. Is that it?
Mind Palace.
His
that's what it's
memory
called,
warehouse.
yes.
It's
Memory
called.
warehouse. And so basically it's just this old-timey library with it's labeled like with his memories, because he's like, I've just got so much in my head, I have to get rid of some stuff to put new stuff in, which is, again, just like an abstract concept that he thinks about, like this place.
You've kind of seen this concept like in Sherlock. I think the Benedict Cumberbatch one has like his mind palace that he kind of goes
Which they
into.
stole from Dreamcatcher.
There you go.
I haven't seen that.
Well, okay, that's going to be my favorite thing because I can't think of anything else in this movie. It's just the concept of the memory warehouse. I think is like it's an interesting idea, and I think it's one of the only kind of successful.
Yeah, but they don't really do much with it.
Not
Well,
really.
what happens at this point is Jonesy. That's
Okay, yeah, he's called
Damian
his-
Lewis.
Oh, you will hear that name
Yeah.
so many times.
He talks now with a different voice, which is the voice of the alien, and we see Jonesy in the Mind Palace, and he's looking through a window at the events that are happening in the movie.
Okay. But when you say voice of the alien, it makes it sound like I talk like this.
Oh, no.
No. He talks like, hello, my
Hello,
name is
governor."
Jonesy.
He's like an old-timey chimney sweep.
And Timothy Oliphant, who has never seen any British person, at one point is attacked by this possessed Jonesy, and he goes, "You sound like a James Bond's."
Yeah, like that was an odd reference, which is pretty funny. But the thing is, they all know it's not him because they're psychic and they can hear his thoughts.
Yeah,
That's
so he's
right.
sort of trapped. I guess it's like the alien's taken over his body. He's sort of helpless. but-
Because the alien needs to find Duddits. We don't know why. The alien just knows that there's something important about Duddits.
the alien finds out. It doesn't know that Damian Lewis has these psychic abilities. And he's like, hello, who gave you those abilities then?
But then why did he possess him?
They just
didn't know
happened to bump into each other.
Yeah, he just came across
why.
him. It was all just random.
No,
April's mind is like, I need to make sense of this.
I need to watch this movie again to make sense
well,
of
because
it.
then why not just kill him?
Because it needed, basically, it was trying to get to the water reservoir.
So it needed to look like a human.
Yeah, so basically
Okay.
this whole movie is basically it's an alien invasion, basically, and this alien is trying to get to a water reservoir to dump in this sort of larva worms that will eventually take over the world.
We don't find that out until the very, very end,
Oh,
though.
God.
So I guess so. Meanwhile, he's running around. He's possessing Damian Lewis, and I guess I thought it was because he realized that because he's trying to get his friends to talk about Duddits. So
Yeah, because he's
knows
like-
something is up. With
Yeah, he's like, holy shit, you're psychic. Like, who gave you these abilities? And then
Yeah.
Damian Lewis is sort of telling him the story of, and I think we even have like a flashback, don't we, in the middle of this sequence, sort of going back?
Yeah, we do get an extra flashback of them getting their powers.
Yeah.
And
Right. And they,
At about this point, we're introduced to Morgan Freeman and Tom Sizemore,
Oh my
and a
God.
whole other movie starts that I remember seeing this in theaters and going, "What is going on?" Because they're suddenly
Yeah.
like
You're not the
in,
only one.
Helicopters, and they're blowing up like hundreds of aliens.
this is a completely different movie.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I agree, and we didn't need it at all.
No, it's like this whole movie, you know, when you kind of come into a movie and you're convinced that you've missed something, like another movie that explains what's happening,
Like-
and you're just so confused.
Like, I know that we usually recap the whole movie, but like there's no way we could possibly even talk about everything because there's just so much crammed into this movie.
Yeah, it's just
and
like-
but yeah, it is like 3 movies because it's like the kid stuff,
Mm-hmm.
all the stuff that happens when they're a kid, and then like 4 Psychic Bros movie, and then how about 4 Psychic Bros encounter aliens?
And then this,
Great.
like, you know,
And then we
Independence
have-
Day,
Yeah,
alien
Independence Day.
invasion plot.
Which is also like there's quarantine in the movie. Ooh.
Yeah, it feels like it's a film that should only take place at this cabin. And the
Yeah.
fact that it goes, like, it has to be so big, is crazy. There's a really funny introduction to the screenplay that Stephen King wrote, where Stephen King's like, this is going to do for toilets what Psycho did for showers.
Sure.
I haven't used the toilet to this day.
And now every time I have diarrhea,
I just go in the shower.
Is there an alien in me?
Yeah, every time you fart, Colin's going to be like, shit weasels.
But one weird thing I wanted to mention was they talked about how the aliens are shapeshifters, but they only turn them. I think this is why they're called Mr. Gray. There's the term like the classic gray alien, which is the big black eyes and then they look gray. So these aliens make themselves look like those aliens as a way to get on our good side. Even they look scary, which is weird. They really look like big, giant, ugly slugs.
They just look like bigger versions of the shit weasels, but
Yeah.
then they mentally project a version of these sort of friendly gray aliens, which don't look very friendly in this movie, by
Not
the
when
way.
you see it
And
close up.
they project themselves going, please, we come in peace. Like the
That's
Simpsons
so-
episode, like,
Oh,
hello,
God,
we're here.
okay.
And then they
That's-
just like bomb them.
Yeah, that's an example of a scene that I'm sure read better, because you can just put like, the pilots could hear sounds of people crying for their lives, but they just kept going because they knew that was a trick. But when you hear it, it's like they've looped like Walla or something from like extras saying like, please don't hurt us, we'll die. Like of like
You
children.
use a very technical term there, April. Walla. What does it mean
Walla-
to any audience
Walla
members
is
who may
like-
not know what it is?
It's background talking. So like
Okay.
in the background of a scene, just you'll have people go over the stuff like that. But yeah, it kind of sounded like that. And then it shows them like reaching up to them, and then at the last second they'll change into a slug and run away. But they bombed them all.
Okay, so basically we're introduced to Morgan Freeman and Tom Sizemore
Yeah, Tom Sizemore's
in
in
this,
this movie.
whole other movie. So Morgan Freeman is the head of this sort of blue, it's called Blue Unit, I'm pretty sure, or the Blue Boys. It's like his own little special unit of alien hunters and killers.
He's been doing it for 25 years.
I've been doing this for 25 years. His eyebrows are out of control, and he's got this big like flat top. This is like the most badass I've seen Morgan Freeman in a long
And he's
time.
introduced shooting a soldier's fingers off. And he's
Yeah.
like, don't lie to me again.
Yeah, he's actually like genuinely intimidating, and because we're so used to seeing him being so kind and
Kindly
gentle.
Morgan Freeman.
Well, I don't know if his family would say that.
Oh,
Maybe
considering
not.
that he married, was it his niece?
Oh God, wasn't he like dating? Okay, I don't want to. I
Yeah,
don't want to
let's
tell
not
tales out of
open that
school.
Can of worms.
Allegedly.
But he kind of is introduced as like this on the level person, and then it slowly is revealed that he's nuts, and he will kill anybody and everybody to contain this alien.
His name is Colonel Curtis,
Yes, not Kurtz.
but apparently in the novel it was Kurtz.
Yeah, it was Kurtz in the novel.
And then they changed it to Curtis because they thought in the movie people would just be confused, thinking of.
Don't they play Flight of the Valkyr when the alien bombing happens?
No, I
Like,
don't think so.
I don't think so, but
No, I was imagining that in my mind though as I was watching that sequence.
Okay.
Speaking of the score, James Newton Howard did the score.
Yeah,
And he's a really good composer.
he is. He worked with M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, he's not my favorite composer. by
Peter
any-
Jackson was King Kong.
That's the thing. It's like this movie has so much. I don't know. It's like talent,
Yeah.
behind the camera and in front of the camera, and they always say like good movies are miraculous because there's thousands of things that have to go right in order for a movie to kind of work. And I feel like this is one of those movies that almost nothing goes right. Every choice that they made, every decision that was made was the wrong one.
It just
Yes,
didn't come together.
across the
And
board.
nothing comes together and you're just left befuddled by this movie. And if they
The source material's so bad though. Like
Yeah.
they don't have much to work with.
But-
and they don't just stick to it too closely. They also change stuff in the wrong way.
Okay, like I need examples.
So at the end, Duddits, the big reveal that he's an alien as well, is not in the book.
it
Oh,
isn't.
So what was he in the book?
I don't remember. Reading some people say they said the ending was too close to it, which made me think, wait, did they all have sex together at the end?
They can't. Half of them were dead.
It's like a big
No.
spider monster. Well,
Well,
speaking
we
of
didn't
that,
get
I mean,
into Duddits, who the friend that they had saved is now an adult man played by Donnie
you
Wahlberg.
keep hearing about Duddits over and over. We do see him in one of the earlier flashbacks where
Yeah.
he's being bullied and the bullies are trying to stuff shit into his mouth.
Shit again. What is that? A theme with this movie?
Yeah, is it shit or is it a Wahlburger? Hi-yo.
It did look like a big round, like brown thing. So,
Mark Wahlberg's watching this going, yeah, I got an idea for a business, bro.
did we mention that Mr. Wahlberg plays him as an adult?
Not yet.
Yes, Donnie Wahlberg.
This is
Donnie,
the
yeah.
big reveal.
Wait, don't call him Mr. Wahlberg. Are you trying to sell the movie or like Dreamcatcher?
She's trying to suck up to him.
Wahlberg.
I said that because I couldn't remember his name. And I didn't want
Donnie, Mr. New Kids on the Block.
Yep.
Uh,
the Jim Belushi of the Wahlberg family, aka the more talented one.
You're probably right.
Oh man, there'd be an amazing movie that is like Matt Dillon, Donnie Wahlberg, Jim Belushi.
Are you kidding? The straight to video like VHS movies from the early 90s, I want to say, they totally did that. I remember going,
You think so? Like Long Riders 2,
No,
where it's all those brothers?
you'd be like Swayze, Stallone.
Oh, yeah, they always did that.
McQueen,
and it's like Chad McQueen.
Chad McQueen,
Frank
Patrick Swayze's
Stallone.
bro.
Well, it's like that workout video of like everyone's parents. So it's like Al
Wait,
Pacino's
what?
dad. And
Wait. What is this workout video of everyone's parents?
it's something we saw on the internet, I think. I forget
Okay.
what it's called.
It's
but
what April works out to every morning when she goes
they
downstairs.
have Al Pacino's dad on there.
and then Jackie Stallone.
Yeah, Jackie Stallone's mom, and there's a couple other
Martin
ones.
Scorsese's uncle. and
Yeah, and it's like a workout video where they're like lifting tennis rackets and stuff.
Oh God, it's like how to stay alive when you're old.
how do you stay alive when you're old, Colin?
You just keep going. Just keep going.
I can't help myself. April just sets them up for me.
But like,
Well, speaking of it, I mean, the flashbacks all take place in Derry, Maine.
yeah.
So all these kids grew up in Maine, and you're definitely getting in the first flashback with the kids where Dennis is being bullied. This sort of exemplifies how awkward and weird the writing is. Because this whole scene is just so awkward, and you're just like, nobody speaks like this. Like, the dialogue is weird.
Let
the
alone
acting
like
is bad.
10-year-old kids.
Yeah, it's just so weird.
It's also very much like Stand By Me, like the Four Boys.
Well, at least those, Stand By Me, like the characters came off as real, and they
I actually
had,
never saw it, but I did read the
it's
book.
a terrific movie. Yeah, I mean,
short story.
I mean, those characterizations came off as like real. They felt like real characters. This is just so weird, and you can feel the writing and the dialogue. It's just so odd.
Yeah, it's weird when it's like you can feel like the author's preoccupations, fixations. Have you noticed how there's always like a person in his movies who's like really, really fat, and they're like displayed as like they can't stop eating, and it's like shown as like disgusting? Like that's a theme in a lot of his movies too.
Yeah.
Yeah, another theme is writers. Always writers in Stephen King books, novels, and stories.
Yeah, although is there a writer in this one?
I don't think there is. I think that maybe in the book, like Damian Lewis may have been.
He's the closest.
He's like a professor
college
in the movie.
professor.
Yeah.
Well, he does get hit by a car in one of the opening
Oh,
scenes.
shit.
So it was like, I think Stephen King was directly kind of.
It must have been.
And isn't there a scene where there's like a dog in the back of a truck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
well?
So Damian Lewis ends up stopping a truck driver. He's hitchhiking.
You're right. That is like straight out of real life.
Yeah, and then he kills the truck driver, and the truck driver has a German Shepherd that he impregnates with these kind of worms.
Alien eggs.
So the whole like last third of this movie is Damian Lewis on, I think he's in a car just driving to this water reservoir where he's, this dog is going to give birth to these like baby worms that are going to go into the water supply or something like that.
And he's like talking to it. He's like carrying it around.
Hello, little doggy.
Yeah. But
Like, that is not an exaggeration. That is what Damian Lewis sounds like in this movie.
He says he was impersonating Malcolm McDowell. But
I get
it does
Malcolm
not.
McDowell on steroids.
No. It sounds like me doing the character in that animated movie I was in. Oh, no.
The thing is, it's like, is this supposed to be scary? Because that accent is it's a comedy accent.
It's so funny. Yeah.
And the weird thing is, like, Damian Lewis, before he's possessed by the alien, is also acting incredibly strange and off. And as I said earlier, when I
This English accent is very hard. This North American one.
He's English. He's from England.
He's Brit,
Yeah.
but it's almost maybe it is like he couldn't do an American accent, but like he's smiling constantly, even when there's a shit weasel like going for him.
Yeah, he has
like,
a very creepy kind of
he
smile.
has a weird. He's being weird, and then he gets possessed by an alien, and then he acts normal, except he has a weird accent.
So, April, what was your favorite part of this?
I mean, Thomas Jane is a beautiful man, but
Oh, Thomas Jane is a beautiful man. Man, I feel so bad for Thomas Jane. Like, he was given so many opportunities and things that should have been home runs that just did not work out for him.
He had
Like
everything going for
Punisher.
him. Well, I mean, he's sort of. What about Hung? I never saw
Lucy.
Hung.
I
Is that
saw
a
the
good
first
show?
episode of Hung. I don't really remember much about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's supposed to be pretty good in it. I mean, he's supposed to be a nice man that may have a few problems with alcohol.
He also doesn't wear shoes when he should.
Barefoot.
That's right.
But
and he just wants his kids back.
exactly.
Oh, homeless dad.
But like he kind of doesn't. He's kind of not in this movie a ton.
He kind of
'cause
disappears
it's
for a
such
good chunk.
Yeah,
in the middle,
it's such
it
a
feels
big
like.
cast, but I do feel like his is probably the strongest performance. Although Morgan Freeman was good, like just like everyone in this movie, he's given really cheesy lines.
But he's sad of the dialogue.
I know.
He
but
everyone in his Blue Boy crew or whatever it's called, he keeps calling them
he
Bucko
calls everyone
and Buckaroo.
Bucko.
Hey
If you,
there,
if you think
Bucko.
that, Bucko, you got another thing coming. But like he's good too. And I'm gonna say, I can't believe I'm gonna say three things here. But I didn't think the special effects were that bad. Like they are dated for the time, but they clearly had a big budget.
Yeah, it was ILM
Yeah.
who did the CGI aliens, and it was actually Stefan Fangmeyer. He was the VFX soup. And he's a VFX soup at ILM, like from way back in the day. He worked on like Terminator 2. And we actually worked with him. When he
Yeah,
was at-
you were saying you worked with one of the people. Was that the person who
It
did
was
the
him, Stefan.
creature design? Or?
No. Crash McCreary.
Oh, yeah. Someone was named Crash in the credits. I
He was a
noticed.
creature designer. He works for, I think, Stan Winston Studios.
And like it is very derivative, obviously, but you know the like slug, the shit weasels, they have like a like a row of teeth or whatever, and it's like vertical mouths. It looked good.
It wasn't terrible.
I mean, it just made me go, I wish I was watching Deep Rising.
It
Yeah.
reminded me a lot of other movies, but
Yes.
again, like for what we could have gotten, I do wish there was maybe a little more practical effects in this, but there were practical effects.
Yeah, from what I could tell. I mean, the dog was animatronic.
Yeah,
When he was carrying it around.
doggy.
Not a real dog. Don't worry, April.
Yeah, he was carrying around this animatronic dog, but they would just like
They, like move its mouth.
I think its ears would kind of like move slowly
That
from
better
time
have
to time.
been animatronic.
It was animatronic, and they would just put like sound effects, like
So at the end, there's a big confrontation between Donnie Wahlberg playing Duddits.
okay, we haven't even
who-
got to them showing up at
I know,
Duddits'
but we
house.
can't, Colin. We can't.
It's true. There's too much, but yeah,
It's just all over the
again,
place.
all this talk of
It's
Duddits
also
and-
very politically incorrect because all we want to do is imitate Donnie
Okay,
Wahlberg's
Donnie Wahlberg
terrible performance.
is introduced, present day Duddits, and I laughed out loud.
he has a speech impediment, but did they say that he has cancer?
Yeah,
Okay, because
Yes, he's dying.
yeah, he looks like he has cancer. Like he's bald. Like they gave him like intense like sunken eyes, so it looks like his eyes are just like two big bruises.
yeah, and he's got runny nose, and he's all snotty, and he has to like his mom says, "Oh, keep him wrapped up in his parka." His boots that he's wearing.
Did you see the boots, Justin?
No, I did not.
Imagine ski boots and then times that by 2. That's how big they were.
They look like a prop from like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids or something. Like
They were gigantic.
they're so big. They look like they were taken off of like a NASA spacesuit or something.
Yeah.
And so Duddits is just covered in snot the entire time.
Oh,
Donnie
God.
Wahlberg is bald. And they keep making him say stuff like, I dud it's. Like, you're not supposed to, like, is this supposed to be emotional? Because it just seems, like, goofy
That's
and
his
wrong.
catchphrase.
He has an intense speech impediment as well. It looked like maybe they put prosthetics in Donnie Wahlberg's mouth
I
or
think
something.
he was kind of just twisting his... He's doing... It's a bad...
I am Samming it.
It's sort of a borderline offensive caricature of someone with mental disability.
Is that your favorite character, Justin?
In the Stephen King universe.
Is that it?
Why do I have to pick a favorite character?
No. Well, did you say what your favorite thing was?
I did. Hours ago,
Yeah, we
I
beat you
did.
to this,
Oh,
April.
what did you say?
Jason Lee, his dad.
It's too thick.
Jason
We've
Lee's
been
too
here
thick.
for 84 years explaining Dreamcatcher.
Oh, I forget.
Sorry, April. I forgot that sometimes. Are you taking medication again?
Not right now.
We've got quarantine brain right now. It's like I can't even
Yeah.
remember. I don't even know what day
Actually,
it is.
my brain is fried because I played too much Animal Crossing, and now I need
Oh.
to take a break.
So when you play Animal Crossing, you find it just a relaxing thing? Because when I see or hear people talk about it, it sounds like work, like chores.
Honestly-
like I could go clean the bathroom.
Yeah, it was relaxing at first, and now it's becoming like an obsessive chore. And
Aren't you in debt as well?
Yes.
In Animal Crossing, the entire game. Why would I play a game where I'm in debt?
you're always in.
I'm already in debt in life.
You're basically always in debt, and then if you want to make your house bigger, you have to pay down that debt. But I'm starting to
my
realize
God.
that, like, because I don't play online, I don't have any friends who play it. I can't visit other people's islands. Like,
Kinda like right now.
I'm running out of incentives to make my island good because no one will ever see it, and there's no like
Yeah.
winning the game. You know.
I feel like that was something that like I missed out on, that a whole generation stuff like Minecraft and Animal Crossing, where you're just kind of sculpting something in game.
like the crafting games.
I don't understand why. Like,
Yeah, I never got into that.
Yeah, I mean, it is relaxing because there's cute animal characters, and like you can get them to move to your island, and then if you want them to like become your friend, you give them gifts, and you can like try and pick gifts that you think they will like and stuff like that. But I mean, it's basically just a microcosm of the real world.
Because like I aesthetically understand why people love it so much, but personally, it makes no sense to me because it's like a chore simulator.
I kind of get it. Well, also, the one thing is, it's like you can garden in the game, and boy, I really wish I could garden in real life right
Yeah.
now, but I can't. So it's like,
Yeah,
you know.
but that's so weird. It's like you're working for somebody else to garden. Because, like, one of the great things about gardening is you get to see the thing that you made, and you can smell it, and it's tactile. You can eat it.
Yeah.
And that there's joy there. And there's none of
I
that in
can't
this.
smell it, but I can see it, and you can grow different hybrids of flowers. But the only point to doing that is that I could see different colors of flowers in my game. As I said, I gotta take a break because I've been playing it way too much. But yeah,
So back to Dreamcatcher. We return you now to your main program.
Well, we haven't even talked about Timothy Oliphant's death, which is hilarious.
It's very funny. It feels like he got sick and they had to get rid of him somehow.
yeah, halfway through the movie, doesn't he kind of exit around the same time as Jason Lee?
No, he exits like 20 minutes later.
Yeah, so Tom Jane and Timothy Oliphant get in a car accident because some lady is like sitting in the middle of the road.
Farting up a storm.
Then Tom Jane goes back to the cabin as he goes off on a trek, and he says to Timothy Oliphant, like, stay here with her. And it's unbeknownst to Timothy Oliphant that this woman is already dead. The shit weasel has sort of exited her, and he's talking to this corpse, but he's too drunk to know. And but like the second that they meet her, they're like, "Oh my God, ma'am, are you okay?"
Yeah.
She lets one rip, and it's so funny. It's like there's more farting in this.
Farts are never not funny, guys.
I know.
Even when people are dying.
There's more farting in this movie than Spookies, probably.
Yeah, like there's.
That is not true. There's way more farting in Spooky.
You can't make farts scary. I'm
No,
sorry.
they're not.
No, you can't.
But
Especially in Fart the movie.
so he's hammered, and you kind of keep seeing this like shit weasel underneath the snow, kind of moving, and it kind of like pops up mid-sentence, and then he goes, "Lord, I will never drink again," and it instantly grabs his dick. It bites his
I don't
dick.
think it grabs his dick. Doesn't it grab his chest because he jumps on the fire?
I think so.
To like,
He jumps and puts his crotch on the fire to burn this
He burns
to
himself.
burn this alien off of his dick. It's so funny.
Yeah, and then
he meets up with Damian Lewis, and they jump on a ski. I can't say it,
Skidoo.
snowmobile.
Yeah.
Ski-Doo?
It's a ski-doo.
Ski-Doo. That's what. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
Snowmobile, yeah.
Snow machine, as my
And-
friends from Northern Ontario say.
And you think that like Timothy Olyphant will have more to play in this movie? Nah,
Nope.
they're just riding on that snowmobile.
Doesn't he die?
And
Yeah, he does
gets die.
bitten.
Yeah, and he says like, "Bite my ball sack," and then Damian Lewis is like, "Okay," and then he turns into like a giant monster.
Bite my bag.
While they're riding
Bite my
on
bag.
the snowmobile.
I will bite your bag and everything else.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm Malcolm McDowell.
So do you think Lawrence Kasdan is like watching this and he's like, "Got it. This is great. Let's move on."
Did you notice the variety in camera work in this movie? Sometimes it's handheld. We've got some zoom-ins whenever Thomas Jane realizes something important.
I think you're being very generous, April.
I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying, there was a lot of different. Remember that 360 shot? Boy, it was just like Death Proof.
Oh, is that in Morgan Freeman's office?
No, when they're eating dinner.
Oh, you're talking. It's like the Reservoir Dogs table shot.
Yeah, I said Death Proof,
Yeah.
but obviously Reservoir Dogs
okay,
came
yeah.
Or
first.
like It Too when they're in the Chinese restaurant.
Yeah,
That
exactly
too,
like that.
Yeah.
Except it too didn't have like a Dreamcatcher hanging over the table.
I wish the movie ended with them having to build some kind of dream catcher to save the day.
Yeah, it'd be cool. And like eels are about to fall into the water, and then Duddits throws out like a dream catcher, and it kind of catches them in the net thing. And he's like,
The monster's like, the alien's like, my only weakness.
dream catchers.
Yeah, go ahead. Do you want to talk about the very end of the movie?
Yeah, so Damian Lewis, a.k.a. Jonesy, is about to drop that dog full of worms in the water supply. And Thomas Jane kicks the door open and throws Duddits at the alien creature. And basically Duddits has a look of pure joy on his face as the Mr. Gray turns into a giant monster and stabs him through the chest.
With like his CG spiky tail.
Yeah, and he's like, I done it.
I done it. And he throws his hand up. But then like Tom Jane, immediately before this, Tom Sizemore and Morgan Freeman have a fight. Morgan Freeman shows up in like a helicopter, some like Apache helicopter, and he's fighting and shooting at Tom Sizemore, who's on the ground with a machine gun.
It doesn't seem like a fair fight.
It's not, but they both die.
They both kill each other, so that story's
I
over.
skipped over that part because it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter.
It has nothing to do with the movie.
It's like you see Morgan Freeman's helicopter kind of go behind these trees, and then it just sort of cuts to like some stock explosion footage.
Yeah, I think Morgan Freeman's like, oh shit!
Yeah.
But then Tom Jane grabs the machine gun from Tom Sizemore, and then he comes in, he bursts into the water reservoir room, and I think one of the shit weasels like attacks him, and he shoots it.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're trying to make it look like, oh, he's never fired a machine gun before, and his arms are just flailing everywhere, and he's firing all over the place. It's great. And then it kind of like ends up with its mouth stuck on the gun barrel, and then he blows it up.
Also, he has the classic scene with Damian Lewis where he's like, prove that it's you. Tell me something that only we would know or something. And he's like,
And he's
same
like,
shit.
oh, that's how we grew up in Derry with the
same-
clown.
Same shit, different day.
Oh, God.
SSDD.
Yeah, that's another thing. They all keep writing SSDD and saying that to one another throughout the movie, and you're just like, oh, is this another Stephen King?
I think that like their psychic bond has like doomed them to be linked, so they can't. That's why they can't grow up, because they can't stop spouting these same stupid catchphrases they made up when they were 10.
Well, that seems like a psychoanalyzation of Stephen King himself.
Yeah, but so Duddits turns into an alien, and is it ever explained who he is, why he's there? Is he the same alien? Is he
he looks like
April,
a different
life
species.
is filled with mysteries we will never know the answers to.
But he looks like the same species, but like the good version.
It's like a
Yeah,
different.
he's smiling.
Yeah, he's a different color, and it looks slightly different. But so in the book, Justin, you said
I don't remember the book.
You said
that
he's
much.
not revealed
Basically,
to be an alien.
He's not, and the movie, the way they originally shot it, he was not revealed to be an alien either.
Okay.
It says here, he then succumbs to leukemia and dies.
So why did they bring him? Why was he even in it then? Well, he is the one that
I
told them
don't
about
know.
the water supply thing.
Yeah, he knew where
Yes.
where they were going.
Because
Well, originally, in the original version, Duddits does kill the alien. What's amazing about this movie is you can feel how frustrated the people making it are, because Duddits defeats the alien, and then, like, a little worm is about to hit the water supply, but then Damian Lewis, like, stomps on it, or Thomas Jane does. I don't remember
I think
who
it's
it is.
Damian Lewis.
They look at each other, smile, and then it cuts to credits, like, right away.
No, Tom Jane goes, Jonesy. And then
No, he
Damian
goes-
Lewis smiles. It's like, cut to credits.
Jonesy.
Ends on a laugh.
It's like a kung fu film.
It is. It's
like,
so great.
But I have to mention how it actually doesn't even commit to cutting to credits. At that perfect moment, it does cut to credits, and then over the credits, they show shots of them all at that round table, dinner table again.
having fun.
And doesn't it
getting to hang out with
Well,
the boys?
set to
again.
some,
does
like-
it pan up to the Dreamcatcher?
Well, you said it was like a Moby techno song or something.
It does. No. It goes back to the mind warehouse. So there's a shot of that too. It's like you just ruined your own ending.
Well, it's just like a music video
yeah,
or something like that, because they sample.
just for like 10 seconds.
It's like Jonesy, fuckaroo,
yeah,
bucko, and then you're thinking, oh God, we're watching like techno music video in the end credits, and then nope, they just like
then it just stops, and then it's just back
It's
to
just
the
regular
song.
credits
out and
30
the
seconds
credits
later.
play. Yeah, because the audience, like, Lawrence Kasdan wanted to give them a chance to like dry their eyes before
Yeah.
the credits actually started, and they had to
And
leave.
then it's like, remember the four guys? That's like it was just bizarre.
It's so
choice.
weird. Everything is just so bizarre in this movie. It's crazy.
So not good.
But that's
I mean, sorry, there's no such thing as a bad
Well, I
movie.
think
this is filled with a
April-
lot of crazy bullshit.
At one point in the movie, Tom Jane has a psychic link with Damian Lewis, who's sort of trapped in his memory warehouse. And he says, pick up the phone. And all of a sudden this phone appears and Damian Lewis calls him, and Tom Jane is in a truck, and you hear this ringing, and he is holding a gun, and he just looks at the gun and then just picks it up and starts talking into the gun. And April, you had turned away, or you weren't in the room or something, and you came back in and you're like, why is he talking into a gun?
yeah. He's just talking into a gun.
It's like, whatever. It's Dreamcatcher.
So that's your favorite part.
OxyContin.
That's how it ends. It's like, hey, whatever, man. It's Dreamcatcher.
Dreamcatcher. It's like Chinatown. Forget it.
Well, like as far as
Yeah.
is this a good movie? No, it's not. But okay, I was gonna say it's not boring. It's not, but it is way too long. You can.
2 hours and
but
10
there's
minutes.
so much.
It's true, but you can really feel the length. I
yeah.
checked I did the old check, see how much is left, and it was half an hour, and we're stuck in the military stuff. But
Yeah, it's certainly. I wouldn't say it's padded out, because it is all just plot,
too
more.
This is too much stuff.
Yeah, it's just too much stuff. It's just a befuddling mess, but it's one of those kind of fantastic big budget messes, and you're just like, wow, how did this happen? There's so many talented people
And
involved.
I mean, it's been said before, but like when pitching this movie or producing this movie, it was like a Stephen King based story, Lawrence Kasdan directing.
Look at this
we got a
cast.
pretty good cast. Like, how can it go wrong? So it's like I understand why it was made, but I think that people were putting too much faith in just like, oh, it's a Stephen King movie. He knows what he's doing, and it needed more editing. It needed maybe a different story.
a huge rewrite.
Yeah.
Like, I guess keep the psychic friends and the aliens in some form, but you gotta completely restructure the book, because it just does not work as a movie.
No, I mean, I like your version of it, where they just sort of stay at the cabin.
But I don't want the flashbacks either, because it's just too much like it.
But then you get to the point where it's like, then why are we adapting this book?
Exactly.
How about you just write a whole new script at that point?
We'll call it something else.
Well,
So this movie is available in every bargain bin everywhere, because like I've seen it, like the snapper case.
yeah.
Bargain
All over the
and or
place.
trash bins.
Yeah, trash bin. Like the boxes on the side of the road where people are getting rid of their movies.
Yes.
You will always see
It's all
Dreamcatcher in there.
Yeah, it's available.
If you're doing like renovations in your house and you're like knocking down walls and stuff, you're going to come across a copy of Dreamcatcher.
Like a skeleton with Dreamcatcher in his hands.
You can definitely rent it on iTunes. If you're curious, this is what my recommendation often is just like, if you want to see it, then you can see it.
It's a fascinating
I
mess.
wouldn't say like, everybody shouldn't see this, but you got to know what you're in for before you start watching it.
Oh, for
because
sure.
It's just like baffling how strange it is.
And
in
they
its
throw
choices.
a lot at you really fast.
Yeah.
Like they are throwing a lot of weird stuff really quickly. So you have to be prepared. But do you think this movie, how they're, remaking Pet Sematary, Stephen King, after it came out,
It's
was
going to
such
be
a
a
huge
remake
hit.
of Dreamcatcher?
I think
Do
if
you
they
think
did,
inevitably they're going to like redo
No, there's
Dreamcatcher?
no way.
if they did, they would do like a TV series on Netflix. That's what I think.
Why? Nobody wants that.
Or
No,
just
I know,
forget that it
but-
even existed.
Well,
This needs to be 9 hours, Justin.
Where's my Bag of Bones remake?
Was that actually made into something?
Yeah, it's a TV movie. You haven't seen the amazing scene of Pierce Brosnan like touching a tree and you're like, oh, and he starts vomiting.
what the fuck are you guys
I
talking
posted
about?
it like 30 times online.
oh my god.
Search Bag of Bones, vomit, it'll come up. It is like one of the greatest clips of all time.
I feel like there's more Stephen King adaptations that I'm unaware of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
That
finding.
were-
87% of them
that
are
were made.
directed by Mick Garris.
Mick Garris, yeah.
What did Mick Garris do? Thinner?
No, that was Tom Holland, the director
right.
of Langoliers.
I wanted to mention Thinner because that is an example of a Stephen King movie that is all of these things that we are saying, but it's done right. It's almost tongue in cheek. Like it has a campiness to it.
It's not a good movie. It's funny.
It's really funny. Yeah, it's bad. And there is some really, really silly dialogue and scenes and, choices, but it's actually a lot of fun.
Do you want to hear a funny story about Thinner? Is that the novel that Stephen King wrote, his goal was to write a Donald E. Westlake novel.
Right.
Colin may know this, the guy who did the Parker series.
That's right. And
so
Sahara was one of his movies.
No, that's another guy. I don't remember what his name
wasn't
is.
Donald Westlake?
He wanted to just write a crime novel. He's like, I can't help myself. There's got to be like a voodoo curse in it as well.
Oh my God.
Well, you mean so it was originally just a guy who accidentally runs someone over and then doesn't get charged for it?
I don't remember. It was like a detective. It was like he wanted to do something completely different and he couldn't, but he was able to do that later with his Mr. Mercedes series, which he's been
God.
doing for a while now.
Which, yeah, I've never even heard about.
Well, like
Sahara, I just checked, is written by Clive Cussler.
What, the book?
Yeah, the book.
Oh, why did I think
Series.
Donald E. Westlake? I had a Donald Westlake book when I was a kid. It was called High Adventure. And I only bought it because I was a huge Indiana Jones fan, and I went to this convenience store, and they'd obviously made the cover up to look like an Indiana Jones novel, and I begged my grandma, like, please let me like $5. I have to buy this book. And I was expecting it to be like, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and it was just terrible, like sleazy, trashy novel. And it was just like, I felt very disappointed.
Actually on Goodreads they actually have the Indiana Jones style cover. It's like him holding a machete and there's like a pyramid thing in front of him, the sun is setting.
Yeah, and it was embossed as well, and all the colors were metallic. So it had this like
those embossed
sunset.
covers rock.
Oh, it's
man.
so alluring. And then it's like I'm reading it, and it's like some trashy sex novel. Like, oh God, what is this?
Well, maybe we'll get to Thinner on a maybe a Patreon episode or something someday because it's
I've never seen it.
it's really
it's
funny.
hilarious.
It was on Amazon Prime last time I checked, but Amazon Prime keeps taking movies off.
Yeah.
It's annoying.
I mean,
Who's
yeah,
the star?
they do.
It was Robert Burke. I think he played RoboCop in RoboCop 3.
yeah, I think that's his name, Robert Burke.
It was supposed to be directed by Sam Raimi.
Was it really?
Yep.
Oh my God.
I could,
I'm gonna have a new Sam Raimi fact that Colin can be shocked at
Every episode. This is great.
but yeah, you should really see it because Joe Mantegna is really funny in it too. Anyway, speaking of Patreon, if you want to donate to the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/no such thing as a bad movie. And at the $2 level, we'll have a draw every so often for you to pick a movie for the episode. And at the $5 level, you get a little mini episode every 2 weeks. Next mini episode is, how about I just say it's a Blumhouse movie?
That could be one of 9,000
Yeah, just
movies.
say what it is. It's Fantasy Island. You guys, we all watch Fantasy Island.
Fantasy Island.
If you're, I won't give away the name, but if you enjoy Blumhouse movies, then your fantasy will be fulfilled.
Did Fantasy Island come out in the theaters?
Yes, it did,
Yeah.
but it came out right as the pandemic was
Yeah, I think I remember that.
That's what they'll blame it on.
Yeah, that one, they're really pushing it on iTunes, like the unrated version. Ugh. It's like,
What would be unrated in that movie?
yeah, really. They added like a little more violence, I guess. Anyway, check out the Patreon if you want to listen to that. That'll be out next week. And you can email the podcast at no such thing as a bad movie at gmail.com. Tweet at us at no such thing pod. And my Twitter and letterbox is at April Atmansky.
You can follow me on Twitter, DeCluJ, DECLOUX, and the letter J. I'm also on Letterboxd, just Justin DeClue. Or you can listen to me every week on the Important Cinema Club, which is another podcast I do where we talk about serious movies. Not really. Next week we're doing Nicolas Cage, so
Ooh.
check it out.
What are you trying to say? Dreamcatcher wasn't serious?
Yeah, man.
What are you trying to
Lawrence
say?
Kasdan.
Wait.
Grand Canyon himself.
He made The Big Chill, man.
Yeah, Silverado. Liar.
Silverado. Oh, I loved that movie when I was a kid.
It's great.
Great soundtrack.
Where can people find you, Colin?
Oh, on Twitter, Sergeant Zima, SGTZIMA, and also on Letterboxd, it's the same, Sergeant Zima. I think I reviewed Paddington 2.
Great movie.
That's what you sold last week.
Was it really?
This week as well.
I think I reviewed Bloodsport since then. Classic.
Yeah, I saw that April liked it.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah, we were talking about Bloodsport in the last episode. I actually loved it.
It's so cheesy.
Yeah, I like martial art tournament stuff, and we were like totally in on it. What was the name of the bad guy? Chong Li.
Chung Lee.
Yeah, he was scary.
Bolo Young.
Yeah. So check out Bloodsport if you want to. I still got to see more John Claude.
If you want to see
movies, though.
JCVD's ass like 10 times,
Yeah.
yes, please.
So that's it for this week. One thing I didn't like about Dreamcatcher, it's set in the winter and it was cold the whole time. And I'm cold now because it's cold in Canada right now in Toronto.
It was a little chilly last night.
So I hope good weather comes soon. But if you can, try and remain indoors. And we'll see you next week. I'm April Atmansky.
I'm Justin DeClue.
And I'm Colin Cunningham.
And remember, there's no such thing as bad movie.
Jonesy!
Oh, Jonesy.